Okay, so hi, I'm Ronaldo Trancoso Jr., film critic and creator of the blog Cinematic Tips. How are you today, Juan Carlos?
I am very good. I've had a great weekend, even though I'm tired, but I've had a great weekend. I'm very inspired creatively. Wow. But yeah, just really good. Thank you. How about you? How are you?
Great.
Okay.
I'm great too, thanks. So I read your screenplay Closing Time, and first of all, let me thank you for the opportunity to checking it out at this early stage. I loved it for many reasons. Um, I'd like to commend you for shedding light to something that is still considered taboo by many people, right? It's clear how it's very clear to me how your point of view doesn't come across as from a place of judgment, which is key for this empathetic message to come across successfully, since bathhouses are and the people who go there, they are already so misjudged by so many people who don't go there, right? Straight people and even members of the queer community. Um, Even though it's something very specific to uh, a lot of life experiences from people in the queer community, taking that chance of leaving the house and putting yourself out there in a place where you kind of have to be vulnerable, right? In a way, I think that's also universal because it's a story about connection. It's a story about uh, people going through unknown situations in a way and trying to find connection outside of the online realm, I guess. So my first question to you is about that. When you started thinking about the story, did you have that in mind? How exactly did the story come to you?
Oh gosh. I It was very much serendipitous because it's a bit of a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. I was supposed to watch a play on September 3. That's a Sunday, but I loved Tick Tick Boom so much that I wanted to rewatch it because there was a staging here of Tick Tick Boom. I wanted to rewatch it with another set of actors, but I already got a ticket for Red, which was a Broadway play. I think it was written by John Logan. But I wanted to watch it on a Friday. Stay with me, stay with me on this. And then, so I asked a friend to, can you buy my ticket of Red for Sunday so I could watch Tick Tick Boom on um, Sunday, so I could watch Red on Friday. I was moving around my schedule, and it didn't work easily right away because my friend had other schedule issues. But we were able to work it out, and I was able to watch Red on opening night. And on opening night, there was a talk back after the play. And then there was a mental health professional there who talked about the experience of theater actors having such a big adrenaline rush that it's comparable to car accident. And she started discussing that that's why theater actors probably have different ways um, of trying to bring down that adrenaline rush. So either they drink or they go to the sauna. And I was like, wait, theater actor in a sauna. There's something there. Hmm. And then because that was the time when I was falling in love with theater, which also meant falling in love with people from theater. I thought the idea of what if I get to meet someone who's from theater, and what would happen if, for example, like when you meet someone in a song, like, hey, I'm a fan. But then, like, I thought, oh, that's not very interesting to meet someone that you know. What if you don't know that person is a theater person? And then that now the idea of like a double life, like there's a side of the person that you don't know, or like this is something that you do in hiding, and then unexpected connections. That's where it started springing out. And it just started from that idea of like a theater actor in a sauna. But quickly, once I shifted the original idea of like knowing someone that did, and to probably not knowing yet, the idea of discovery, the idea of getting to know someone and really getting to know someone. Because, especially in these spaces, a lot of people go there anonymously. So, you get to say your name, but you don't really introduce who you really are. But then you see them again in real life, in an outside life, and then there's an instance of a reintroduction. So that extremely fascinated me. The process, the the mental work that people do, that we do, when our ideas of double life start to not work on our favor, and be like, oh, I cannot separate now the person that I met during this time of my life to this time of my life. And what does it say about us as people, as part of the LGBTQIA plus community, on the way that we work, our minds work just to survive, just to be accepted, just to keep things in order. But that's the genesis of the idea. Basically, a theater actor in a sauna, from a talkback, from a play that I should probably have not been able to watch, but I did because of a friend. I want to thank that friend who allowed me to be able to shift my schedule to witness that talkback to get that idea of theater actor in a sauna.
That's great. I love how almost every interaction in the screenplay is perceived as some kind of dance of sorts. Like from I don't know how intentional that was, but I real noticed that it's kind of like from the very first interactions in the bathhouse to the ones that evolve as time progresses. This I think this reflects how we're all just trying to keep our best to keep up with like each other's rhythm, and sometimes it's awkward. Sometimes we don't know what move we should make next, but sometimes our moves match perfectly, and they can be the most amazing feeling. And I think the screenplay really gets that right. And I also love how the film starts and leads with like endless possibilities, right? And the ba- to me, the bathhouse or the sauna, it works as a metaphor for how we behave, like in and out of it. Like the possibilities there are endless. We never know what we will find, and this also happens outside of it. And we just should be open to what every new interaction brings us. Um, and I liked how you let audiences just feel what the characters are feeling without making them like verbalizing their thoughts and emotions like in a very like obvious way, which is very common nowadays in film. Like we kind of see these films that are almost like lectures. And what do you think about this? Like, how important do you think it is to not spoon feed the audience exactly what they need to think or feel, but just showing them uh, through images and sounds?
One thing that I learned recently in life is that a lot of people, or maybe not a lot, just there are just people who would not uh, care until it happens to them. And us as film lovers, we are witness to cinema's power of bringing us to these stories, to these worlds where, because we felt it ourselves, even just as watch. That's the magic of cinema, that we are here watching, and this is the film that we are watching. But when a film is just so great, you are so connected that when a character dies, for example, you feel the grief, you feel the joy, you feel the euphoria, you feel the depression, and all that. Sometimes, and in my case, a lot of times, the best way to let someone understand what you're going through is through empathy, is through emotional connection. That's something that sometimes you put in all the effort to lecture about this is what we're fighting for example. We are not uh we are not evils in society that will do harm to your children. We are also just people who want to connect, and it just so happens that we love people of the same sex, for example. Some people would not understand it, would not even listen to it. But when they feel it, maybe there's a possibility of them just understanding it. Maybe they would realize that, oh, we're not as different as the other people that we other are. And that's also a power of cinema, is to humanize those people that for the longest time are marginalized or not being given the full human treatment. And that's also the responsibility that cinema filmmakers have, is that because they also have the power to dehumanize segments of population. But that's the responsibility I'm taking on, is that knowing that this is a taboo, that I I don't think I've seen a Filipino film, for example, that tackled this, or maybe if I'm wrong, then I'm sorry. But also in other cultures that I'm looking for, I've looked for films where the spa culture is a taboo, and there are very few. You have to look really hard, and in some cases like the connections are very marginal, but this is a very a specific Filipino experience. And Pride Month just ended. We are still reiterating our call for the passage of a soji anti-discrimination bill. We still don't have that. A lot Same-sex couples are still not legally recognized in many places, or there are only few places where it's recognized here, and they are not even considered like civil unions. They're just like they have like special power of attorneys or something like that. Kudos to Quezon City, but that's what we're operating in. And my hope is that when you get to watch a film like this, you can see people that you might not agree with their actions, but they're human beings and they deserve respect, and you'll give them that because they are human beings just as you are, and we all have our own shared humanity, and that's the responsibility I'm taking on. So yeah, that was really lovely that you mentioned it, and that also comes down to rhythm. When you mentioned that, for me, a big part of the writing is hearing the rhythm, feeling the rhythm of conversations, because even without telling explicitly, you are showing what kind of relationship they have through just rhythm. Do they finish each other's sentences? Are they measuring each other's words after the other? And it unveils so much about who we are as people. Again, it just goes back to the basic principle that this is a human story.
And speaking of which, this story is something that starts with like anxiety and sensuality, and then it slowly becomes something more romantic, kind of subverting the expectations, I guess. So, how conscious was that decision in the writing process? And do you think that telling a romantic story that starts in a place like that can help people accept the kind of place you're showing and the people who go there a little more?
That's one of the eccentricities of life, is that you just don't know where real connections come from. Um, I've had that experience, not specifically in the film from the film, but a lot of experiences where I've connected with someone, and the the circumstances just worked for us to meet. One variable in that dynamic, we would not have met, and yet we sparked a long time real connection. And other people might judge that. For example, here in the spa, people would judge it's like, oh, people just go there for sex. For example, you go to like online random, those randomizer online video chats, like, of course you go there, you know what you're getting. But then I would speak personally from experience, and as well as other people's experience. In the most unlikely of places, you get to actually meet people that connect with you. And that's a fascinating thing because us in the community where we have been for the longest time, depends on the culture, but in general, kind of shamed about being open to, being open about ourselves. So we try to make connections illicitly, and people would not understand, how did you meet? Wait, how did you meet? But people would just not understand, like, oh, there's something real here. In that moment, it was real. In that moment, we were both lonely that connected. And in terms of romance, uh, I didn't consciously turn it to romance. I'm just probably a very romantic person by heart. But again, not, there might be those, it might feel subversive in terms of genre conventions. I was just going from a place of life where you cannot really fit tropes in narratives. And I think that's also a way of showing the truth of these kinds of relationships, is that you cannot easily pigeonhole them, because probably we have been exposed to cinema that has allowed us to easily pigeonhole it. This is what a romantic film looks like, not too sexy, but really, but with real tender emotions. Or like, oh, this is a sexy film full of sex, not so much about these emotions. The queer experience and the human experience is complex. You can start um, with sex, like, really, and then shift into something really romantic, and then probably end up something friendly, and that's real. And if that meant subverting, fine. I'm fine with it. But I'm just always interested in what's real. What's real? What's real? That's always the question. If it doesn't sound real, if it doesn't feel real, I won't do it. But if it's something that feels real and is real, even if, and I've experienced this, the response to some, not everyone has the same response with the screenplay, for example, that's fine with me because I know where I'm coming from. And I'm coming from a place of just honesty in terms of writing and the experience that I'm bringing in as a writer.
And not just the like the main relationship feels real to me, but also the other relationships, like with his friends, um, um, even with just a small amount of time with them, you usually make us like connect with those people and believe they're friends, believe they have intimacy with each other. And that part is cool because it made me like realize how intimacy is such an important part of this film, like in its different forms, not just like lovers, sexual beings, or friends, but also relatives. And I love how humorous the story is. Like there are some light touches. It, with a story that starts like that, it could have easily gone to different directions, like being a dark story or something with danger or something like that. Because like saunas are perceived as mysterious, and which can be charming and enticing, but for a lot of people it means like, oh, it's scary or something like that. But it's actually just a place where we share experiences. It can be a place for joy, a place for connection, and even friendship or love. So was that on your mind when you were setting the tone of the story, like to give it some light touches?
Uh, I'm funny. No, no, but I don't know. Again, when you have truth as a baseline, all those nuances in conversations they just come out naturally. And as with, in terms of, for example, with the friends, um, that's just how we are. Like, for example, their jokes can be borderline brutal, but then they go back to talking about real connections. Like, for example, I will joke about your possible sexual escapades last night, but how are you really? And I find that to be that whiplash, for example, cinematically, that's just how life sounds, especially, for example, with a circle of friends, is that um, sometimes you have to really keep up because oh gosh, we're talking serious, and then like we are joking about each other and borderline offensive jokes to one another, but then like I care about you. You know, that kind of, that's real. And I think with when you have that foundation, it would just go together. It would just come together in terms of the writing. But no, I didn't strategize like there should be a light touch here. There's like, no. But you know, I am cognizant once I'm reading it because I need to feel the script because I'm writing it with the idea of also directing it, also with the idea of editing it, also producing it and all that stuff and casting it. That you have to see the totality already. Therefore, from the writing process, I have to see it, I have to feel it right away. So it's just the balance of life, I guess, that I'm trying to seek out, um, in terms of that. But you know, I I didn't overthink the screenplay. Not this one. I love to overthink, but this screenplay not so much.
Speaking of how real and authentic it feels, um, I know this might or might not have already been part of your life experience, like going through saunas and stuff like that. But after deciding to write about it, did you go to some saunas to, I don't know, with the mindset of let's make some research about the places and the details and paying attention to that? Uh, and if you did that, how did that change the screen, what you had in mind?
Uh, Not really change, but more like at least inform or at least sprinkle some details that would be would be important in really fleshing out the experience. Because, like you said, there's a mystery to it. Um, I personally am, I have to go beyond the mystery. I have to see the human side of that experience. So, for example, there's a detail in the script. For example, um, there are tiny droplets in the ceiling. Why am I looking at that right now? What am I feeling right now? Why am I looking at it? Those are the things, really. Or like, for example, I would just like look around and see the conversations and like, okay, and these are the pace, and it's really curious sometimes because once you see the rhythm, you see the pace, you see the connection, and you also just see the human side of it. And that's all. That's my prime. That's the important part for me is to not just fetishize this subculture, but show its human side. And with that are the details, and the details would show if you get it. And I hope I did. And not only in the screenplay, but hopefully once we get to make it in the film proper.
And those details also give me a sense of like seeing those places also as like business, like any other business, like with the sense of like organization and the employees and all those details, and also a sense of like community and uh, like a place of refuge for queer people. And you showed how scary it can be, but not the place like itself, but the feeling of, you know, being in a different place for the first time, a place where you kind of have to show your body in a way, um, and you have to be vulnerable because there might be rejection, and it can be very nerve wracking, like that whole experience. uh, and and also like a lot of people go to those kinds of places for sex, but some people go to make connections, to spend some time, to some people are open not just for sex, and even if you go just for sex, there are all kinds of sex and conversations about sex that you can have, and codes in the conversation. And I think you captured that um, really well. And you've said in another video that you didn't let the structure be your guide, right? So that made me interested to know how the ending was conceived. Like, had you already had that ending story, or did that come to you while you were writing?
Endings are usually important for me when I start writing. I have to know where this goes because that would inform what's my point in writing this. Um, Generally, I have a sense that original ending, the one that I didn't write. Sometimes you just don't want to write first because you'll end up in a rabbit hole of just writing. So usually the story's just in your head. The original ending is, it's almost like that, but it's not saying a lot. Then you go deeper, then you go deeper, and then you realize that, oh, this has more meaning if when if this happens. So sometimes the idea of the ending is already there, but the time that you spend in the process of writing makes that ending more mature, more textured, and has more meaning. Um, that ending is something that means a lot to me, means a lot to the film. It's a full circle moment, but it's also a moment of almost like unintentionally, it's like a subversion of the expectations because it's not one thing. Because like you said, when you mentioned endless possibilities, there is no um I didn't dictate what they would be. I like the open-endedness not just of the story but of the characters. They are just ready to receive, and I would like the audience to just be open to what they will receive with this experience. And that uncertainty is scares a lot of people, and understandable. But sometimes in relationships, uncertainty is a part of the journey, and I just want people to also get that it might seem uncertain, but this is real. Whatever they have, it's real, and there it's this is not just attraction. There's more to this. We all just see connection, and that's why I love the ending. I do love the ending. Oh gosh, I can't wait to film it. Oh gosh.
I have one more question. How important was it um, to make your lead someone who was some kind of newbie in that universe? Like, was it a decision like to help put basically any person in his shoes?
Oh, I didn't think of it that way, but no, as a screenwriter, like like a character way in. Not really, but I do want because I want to approach this story with no judgment. Of course, you have heard echoes. We have heard echoes of like what is a subculture probably is, or gossips about it. But I wanted to explore it from someone who's experiencing it for the first time because that's raw, and that is just you responding to the moment because this is new to you as the character is, and as for the viewer it makes also a lot of sense um to really put it in that perspective of someone who doesn't know the works but you're interested in it. It allows for openness because we're a clean slate. The characters on a clean slate. We are on a clean slate. Hopefully, we come in, we watch, we see images that, oh, that feels familiar, or that doesn't. That's weird, or like, but it's fine. Just allow the story to unfold, and have this experience. And hopefully, once we get to make this film, the people would be on board in watching this experience, because I understand, I understand if there would be trepidations and like, oh, what is this about? Okay, mm. But this is an invitation. This is not just, this is primarily for a community that we have a lot of stories, but we still struggle to tell our stories, be told, and then on a platform like film or whatever, but also an invitation to people who are not part of our community but wants to understand us. And hopefully people who do not understand us might take interest in understanding us, or probably not. It's fine, but we have stories to tell, and that's what I feel strongly about as a writer. And probably that's just gonna be me as a storyteller forever. Is that as a writer, probably just write gay characters forever. But there's so much to tell in our community, so much story to tell from our community, and we need lots of voices. And this is just one of many, hopefully.
I think it's not just an invitation for people outside of the queer community, but for people who is part of the community, but I don't know, maybe they have some prejudice and they don't go to those places because of that. I think this film can be very enlightening for anybody.
Yes. The LGBTQIA plus experience is complex, and
Yes.
there's a lot of facets, there's different kinds of people, and we hopefully we get to a place of understanding each other, because that seems to be very unfashionable now. The trend in the world is to dehumanize one another, put ourselves against each other, and we have to fight back. And this is my little contribution to it, if to get a story and to tell it to the world.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks again for trusting me with your precious new baby, which I'm sure will become something you'll be really proud of once it's ready for the whole world to see. Um, I can't wait to see the result and to witness the whole world embracing it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I hope people who get to hear this story, get to hear this conversation, hopefully they would be interested in donating to our Indiegogo campaign, because we really want to bring this story to the world. And yeah, I hopefully next time um, you'll get to watch the film already.
I can't wait.